Is everyone cheating? You know, this is a thing that is not going to be popular because this is going to go against what you want to believe to be true. And this is going to go opposite of what many of the people on social media are saying because, well, social media is social media. And so it's kind of like this echo chamber of really popular people, but it's like the tip of the iceberg. You know, like if you think about it just for a second here, how many sprinters can you name? If you're not a sprinter, you probably can only think of Usain Bolt. But how many high-level swimmers can you name? Maybe you name Michael Phelps. Unless you're a swimmer, in which case you know a whole bunch of other names. You know, how many, whatever it is. You know this popular person. If I ask my mom name a basketball player, my mom would be like Michael Jordan, and maybe my mom might come up with like LeBron James or something like that. But my mom's not going to be like, oh, Scottie Pippen and, like she's not going to start rambling off a whole bunch of other names. She's not going to come up with, like maybe Magic Johnson or something. Like my point is here. Like, let's look at hockey. If I ask my mom, name a hockey player, my mom would probably name Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky. Okay? Howie Morenz, Gordie Howe, Brett Hall, Eric Lindros, right? My mom's not going to come up with a whole bunch of other names. You know the most popular people. Same thing is happening on social media. You guys know the most popular people, whatever his name is. His channel has 1.2 million people or 2 million followers or whatever it is. These are the people that are popular. And so you have an echo chamber of the most popular people. It's like you listen to Joe Rogan, you listen to Andrew Huberman, and like maybe Rich Roll. Like these are the popular channels, these are the popular people, and they all have very similar opinions, okay? So, is everyone cheating? I'm really quite tired of hearing these different channels talk about how they think everybody is on drugs. Everybody's on drugs. I hear it all the goddamn time, and I'm tired of it. No, not everyone is on drugs. No. And like the other day, Seek of Strength had a thing where they were doing a Q&A, and it's like, things you changed your mind on. It's like, we realize that absolutely everyone is on drugs. And it's like, no, they aren't. No, they aren't. I don't know why people keep claiming this. I will point something out to you that I said years ago. Okay, so a very long time ago, I had a short stint of trying CrossFit. Okay, this is before the games and stuff like that. What's funny to me is that had I actually competed in like the first and second games, like I probably actually would have won. But this isn't special because I'm sure I'm not the only person out there who had better numbers than they were putting up in the first and second games. Here's the deal. When the games started, right, I made a comment to one of my buddies who I had done CrossFit with, and I said, if D1 athletes started doing CrossFit, they would just smash the fucking CrossFit games. Well, what do you guys see happening? Rich Froning and Matt Fraser were collegiate athletes. Chris Spieler was a collegiate athlete. Like, just start naming some of the top competitors in CrossFit, and oh yeah, these were college athletes. So, this is the thing that I recognized as soon as the game started, was that, and no offense to the guys that did the initial games, like Josh Everett is a wonderful person and he's an amazing athlete. But the thing of it is that if you start taking D1 athletes, and this is the thing here, they are all unbelievably gifted. Okay? Henk Krijgenhof has a quote, "You can't turn a donkey into a racehorse." Here's the reality you guys need to understand. These guys, these D1 athletes, these pro athletes, they are the thoroughbred horses. The rest of us are donkeys. I've discussed this in a previous video whenever I talked about Blaine McConnell in the Natty or Not video that he did. Listen, I'm a donkey. All right? That's actually probably why I'm a good coach. I'm a very good coach. I don't like, this is an ego thing. I don't have any problem saying I'm good at something. If you're good at something, be good at something. I'm really good at coaching. You want to know why I'm good at coaching? Because I wasn't good at sports, so I had to work really hard and I had to figure out what things actually worked. This is like when I tell you guys the secret to being good at hockey. It's not because I got bigger and stronger and faster. It's because I sat around and watched hours and hours and hours of game film. How many kids are willing to spend their time watching game film? I bet a lot of you would rather just play video games. No, I sat around watching game film and studying myself and being like, I was out of position here. I was out of position there. I should have been over here. I missed this, opportunity over here. Oh, so-and-so was open at this point. I didn't even realize that they were open. My awareness on the ice, I don't have good awareness, so I need to improve that. I need to pay attention. I need to be more cognizant of these things. Oh gosh, look at this pattern. Every time that I head into the corner, one of my wingers heads to the front of the net. I should just count on that and just shoot it towards the front of the net, even if I can't see who's there. Things like that. Watching game film made me a better player. I had to work really hard. And I had to train really hard, and I ran tons of sprints, and I had to work hard. I had to work hard to make the team to sit the bench. Yeah, that's the reality of it. I didn't work hard to be the MVP. Nope. I didn't work hard to be a star player. I worked really unbelievably hard just to make the team and sit the bench. Okay? Flip side, the guys who were starters didn't do any of the things I did. They weren't lifting weights, they weren't running sprints, they weren't knocking themselves out, they weren't sitting around watching game film. They were just better than me. I met Kevin Slowey, right? And I'm talking to Kevin Slowey, and I was commenting to him about how hard he trains. He works really hard. Kevin Slowey is a Major League Baseball pitcher, and I think he's a coach now. And Kevin made a comment to me that will stay with me for the rest of my life. He said, Chad, you just don't get it. And I was like, what? He's like, these other guys, he's like, they roll out of bed and throw 90. But I do get it now, because after I saw it, I understood it. I'm not going to drop his name because I don't want to be insulting, but there's a certain boxer that I worked with who was the middleweight champion of the world at one point in time. He is the laziest athlete I have ever met in my entire life. He sandbags and half-asses, and sometimes he shows up late and then leaves early, and he puts in very little effort. And he will knock your ass out. He is one of the greatest fighters in the entire world, and he hardly even works at it. I had D1 athletes walk through my door because they wanted to do NFL combine prep. Many of them, not all of them, I can name a few who were really hard workers. Many of them were very lazy. They sandbagged. They half-assed everything. They ate absolute garbage and junk. And they looked like they were cut out of granite. They put up numbers that I can only dream of. They had vertical jumps that were over 40 inches. They were just better. I will tell you a story about one of my athletes. One of my athletes, I just assumed this guy had to be on steroids because he looked like he was cut out of stone. I mean, I've never seen anybody that lean. This dude could have stepped on a bodybuilding stage, and instead he was playing football. His muscles just looked like solid granite, rock, stone. I mean, he was, I don't even know what his body fat percentage was. He was unbelievable. Ran a 4.4 in the 40. I think he bench pressed 225 for something like 26 reps. Okay. Still an amazing number. I know it's not some record or something. and his vertical jump was like 38 inches on day one, and after like, I don't know, 6 weeks of training with him, he was jumping 40. Okay. And I just assumed this guy had to be on steroids. Now, he goes to the NFL Combine, and, he put up great numbers, but he didn't get drafted. Okay. And at that point, he just decided to continue lifting and continue training anyways, because he's like, well, I think maybe I'll try to play minor pro or Canadian football or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. And we're having a conversation the one day, and he asks me about steroids. He's like, do you think it could make me better? Like, do you think that would make the difference of whether or not I would make it to the NFL? And it's like, aren't you already on them? And he's like, no. He's like, why would I be on them now? He's like, I was just playing college ball. I was like, I could have sworn you were already on them. Are you bullshitting me? Like, I really didn't believe him. Anyways, he started using steroids. When he started using steroids, it turned into like this unbelievable shift. If he was on something before, I don't think he could have made the kind of progress that he made in the following year. It was just unreal. Like, everything went up. Squat went up, bench press went up, deadlift went up, power cleans went up, everything went up, ran faster, got bigger, everything about him changed. So I realized at that point, oh gosh, he wasn't bullshitting me. There's a certain athlete out there that many of you have accused of using steroids, and this person happened to be a friend of mine for a while, and I even lived with him. Not once did I ever see him take anything or use anything that would ever be considered a performance-enhancing drug. In fact, actually, if anything, I would say that most of the things he did, he succeeded in spite of the things that he did. He ate absolute junk. He barely slept. I think his secret was just the fact that he just slammed energy drinks like 24/7. It would not surprise me if he consumed over a gram of caffeine per day. I mean, it was like you just never saw him not drinking an energy drink. So maybe that was how he made up for the lack of sleep. But he was just much better than anybody. Just more explosive, more powerful, just gifted. So, is everyone on drugs? Is everyone cheating? No. But you know what this tells me whenever people say that? You haven't spent enough time around elite level athletes. You haven't spent enough time around D1 athletes. I don't want to drop names because I don't want to make people sound bad when I share something like this. But there were some players on Pitt's basketball team that I was very close friends with. Dude, they would go to training sessions and they would do whatever they were told to do that day by the S&C coach who, whatever. I'm not going to play this up like this is, amazing S&C work. And then they would just go eat like Burger King afterwards. They weren't following some disciplined diet or something. They did absolutely zero recovery work. And then they would go out drinking at night. I was close friends with these guys. And I would sit there thinking to myself, don't you have a game tomorrow? Or they'd be eating absolute trash. They'd be eating Pizza Hut and whatever crap. And I'm like, don't you have a game tonight? Yeah. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. That's why you guys have these things like Metcalf eating candy and junk food, and I think there's even some pro basketball player who's known for the amount of junk food that he eats. Chad Ochocinco, eating fast food and junk food. Ryan Lochte eating junk food. Usain Bolt eating chicken McNuggets. I'm not telling you that all these athletes are clean, but I am telling you that they are genetically already better than all of us. It's like the story of Bill Kazmaier. Bill tells this story about how, when he was in junior high, the gym teacher put some weight on the bar and he just picked it up and put it overhead like it was nothing. It was his own body weight. How many people can clean and press their own body weight on their very first attempt? Ed Cohn, in his very first, time lifting, pulled something insane, like 400 some odd pounds. A lot of you won't get there. Some people just, like I said this in a previous video, they're just born on third base. They're already better than everybody else. Like, it's not like it took them drugs to be that way. This is a guy that throws 90. Like, he just rolls out of bed and throws 90. Like, no different than how there are people that are 7 feet tall. The average person's 5'10", and the average male is, I don't know, whatever, 170 pounds or something like that. I have no idea if that's still true. I think it is. I think that's supposed to be normal, right? 5'10" and 170 pounds. And yet, you have people out there who are, 7 feet tall and 400 pounds. It's no different than with strength. If we said the average male can squat 100 kilos, you're still going to randomly have that guy who can squat, 400 kilos. It's going to happen. And certainly, there are many people on drugs. That is one thing I'm not going to take away from these influencers. Drugs are definitely become rampant. It's become this acceptable thing. However, not everyone. Certainly not everyone. I think we drastically underestimate just how different human beings can be. You think, I can't do that, therefore that guy must be on drugs. And perhaps maybe even you're on drugs, and you're like, I'm on drugs and I can't squat 300 kilos. But there's probably somebody out there who isn't on drugs who squats 300 kilos. So just because you can't squat 300 kilos on drugs doesn't mean that there isn't someone out there who can squat 300 kilos without drugs. It's no different than like IQ and stuff like that. Like, you can't do, high level physics and calculus and, whatever, vectors and differential equations and yeah, but there's someone who can. Look at like these gymnasts, like look at it from a skill level. Do you think you could ever do the crazy, round off back quadruple duck, tuck, turn, spin thing? No. No amount of training will ever get you there, but there's somebody who can do it. It's like if you looked at a Rachmaninoff piece. Can you play Rachmaninoff's Third Concerto? No, you can't, but somebody can. It's no different than any other thing. You can't deadlift 1,000 pounds, but somebody can. And it's just one of those things. Like, the freaks exist. No different than how there are people out there who lift weights and never get any stronger. There are people, I know you, because I am you. I work my ass off. In fact, this is the one thing that I hear all the time from every coach is, Chad, you're the hardest worker on the team. Thanks. And then they put me on the bench. But every single coach told me, Chad, you're the hardest worker on the team. That's the only compliment I ever got. You're the hardest worker on the team. Thank you. You still sit me on the bench. And so, the reality of the situation is, here I am working harder than anyone else to sit the bench. Here you are training harder than anyone else to have a max deadlift of 315. And some other guy who barely trains and doesn't eat well and doesn't put any effort in walks in and pulls, 600. It's not fair. It's not fair. But that is the reality of the world. You work really hard. I know you work really hard. If you watch my videos, you're probably, someone who really struggles, because, that's the kind of people that I end up working with. I work with the people who are not naturally gifted to just walk in and squat 500 cold. And so I know you're working really hard. I work really hard. Everyone tells me how hard I work. Everyone's like, you work so hard. Thanks. Like, no one's ever told me you're talented. No one's ever told me you're good. It's just, you work really hard. Because that's like saying, Like it's like the nicest thing you can think of. Like, yeah, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So it's like, well, he's not any good, but boy, you work hard. Here's a star. And the reality is that you can work your ass off, and there will always be someone out there who's better than you. That's it. That's it. So not everyone's on drugs. We just underestimate the spectrum of human abilities. Yeah. And that's why I believe that is going to be somebody out there who's going to run faster than Usain Bolt. There's going to be someone who's going to swim faster than Michael Phelps. There's going to be someone who's going to break all the powerlifting records. It's just going to happen on a long enough timeline. You know, there's going to be a human who's just gifted. And that's just the way things work, man. So, no, not everyone's on drugs. Some people are just thoroughbred horses.